Hello, 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 hello. Today we are having a review of some crimes that have happened in the news. So we're reviewing crime regarding two particular cases. One where a minister abused a young girl and where a young man has abused other young women. These are both betrayals. When you have betrayals related to a minister, a person that's supposed to be a professional, and a person that's a peer, not the same people, but two individual cases. It's even more devastating when you have these people do these kind of heinous crimes towards you, right? Your peer is supposed to be on the same level as you, not thinking that they would hurt another human being. And then a minister is supposed to be a person that you could trust, right? So you're supposed to be able to trust these people, okay? The women being preyed upon, minister entrusting them with guidance and spiritual awakening turns out to be the creepy neighbor next door. And here's the thing, these are perfect reminders of you can find predators in unexpected places and betrayal closer than you think. So this is what we have. This is what we have. When you have an authority figure and a minister who violates that faith, who violates that trust, and a peer, a person who apparently offers friendship but really doesn't, and fragile is such a high commodity, this is wild. In which I've ran across these stories in which a person violates another person and they call it trust or want to have that trust of another human being. I don't understand what's going on. That a person would be this heinous, these two people. But let's get started on the first one, shall we?
Jon Paul Sheptock, a well-known worship minister, is accused of exploiting a minor, stealing private images, coercing explicit photos, and threatening her with violence over nearly a decade. The allegations reveal a chilling pattern of digital manipulation, and we are going to break down all of these unsettling details with Sheriff Chris Swanson, an expert in human trafficking and child exploitation investigations. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. This case out of Montgomery County, Texas, has shaken an entire church community. And it all starts with a man that many people trusted implicitly. We are talking about 49-year-old Jon Paul Sheptock. He was the worship minister at First Montgomery Baptist Church. This is a role that saw him leading the congregation in song, providing ministry to inmates at a women's prison. But apparently, based on these allegations, behind that facade of faith, that alleged facade of faith, investigators say he's a predator. This story broke when a young woman walked into the constable's office with a secret that she'd apparently kept for years. According to a newly released affidavit, it all started when she was just 17 years old, a 17-year-old high school student. She told detectives that Sheptock, who she referred to as her uncle, had accessed her iCloud, stole a private photo, and then used it to blackmail her for years, demanding more explicit images. And the affidavit contains one line that just reveals what we're talking about, the nature of these alleged threats. It states, the defendant then sent her a video depicting someone being physically assaulted, accompanied by a statement implying that he did not want that to happen to her. So to understand how all of this came crashing down, you got to look at the timeline here, okay? So the affidavit details a series of actions and revelations that unfolded over nearly 10 years. And according to the affidavit, this all started about 7 years ago. This victim, again, a 17-year-old high school student at the time, claims that Jon Sheptock accessed her iCloud account and stole this private nude photo that she had taken of herself. He then allegedly sent that photo back to her on Snapchat, called it, quote, their secret, and began demanding more explicit images. That's the claim. The court document states he basically used fear to control her, even sending her a video, what I mentioned before, of a physical assault with an implied threat that he wouldn't want that to happen to her.
I would have first went to my parents, my mom specifically. I would have been like, Mom, you know what? I've messed up. I put a nude photo on X, Y, and Z. And then this creepo came back and said X, Y, and Z. I would have immediately went to my mom. But then I understand that people have different relationships with their mom where you can't tell your mom some shit like that, or your mom is going to come and say something crazy. I get that. I do. But I'm saying the first instinct, the first thing to do is tell an adult in your life, specifically if you're pretty sure that's not the person that's doing it. I would tell some adult in my life.
The victim apparently told police this pattern continued for years. According to an affidavit, she claims that at a family gathering at his home, Sheptock took her to his white Apple desktop computer and then showed her nude photos of other young girls, some of them who she says she recognized as his own daughter's friends. She says when she got married in 2020, the request stopped. But after her divorce in 2021, she says Sheptock started all up again. She claims she felt she had to comply out of fear that he would expose all of this to her family. And so this supposedly continued.
I mean, that is the family pool is so spectacular that that would be the deterrence. I don't. I mean, I'm kind of finding it hard to believe. You have all this family and friends, and not one person that you could tell.
On until the case broke open on August 19th, 2025, when the now 26-year-old victim walked into the Montgomery County Precinct 3 Constable's office and made a formal report. This launched an investigation by Constable Ryan Gable's Human Trafficking and Child Exploitation Unit. And the constable provided a release on Facebook detailing the steps in their investigation. And after building their case, detectives, they moved in. September 26th, they executed a search warrant at Sheptock's home. He wasn't there. They track him to the Dr. Lane Murray unit. This is a women's prison at Gatesville, Texas. It's a 3-hour drive from Montgomery County. He was there apparently providing ministry services to inmates, and with help from state law enforcement, he was arrested on the spot. He was booked into the Coryell County Jail to await extradition.
I mean, I would have felt some type of way that it took this long to get him arrested for all the stuff that he had been doing, right? But my initial thing, I still would have been upset the first time he said it to me. I'd have been like, oh, no, you ain't. No, you ain't finna blackmail me.
Now, the public backlash was swift, okay? The next day, September 27th, the senior pastor of First Montgomery Baptist Church, Chris Gober, sent a letter to the congregation confirming that Sheptock was arrested and that he was immediately removed from all of his church duties. He wrote, and I quote, "It is with a heavy heart that I share this with you. Jon Sheptock, who served as our worship minister, was arrested about 24 hours ago on charges related to child pornography. This is now public and is being shared on social media. We immediately removed Jon from all responsibilities at the church. He did not have responsibilities overseeing children in the church or school, except occasionally in a large group setting with other adults. We will not cover up sin, and we will not excuse it. We will fully cooperate with law enforcement and trust the judicial process." And the church provided 2 more updates as this investigation developed. You have one on September 29th, where Pastor Gober shared that the detective had retrieved Sheptock's church computer and informed them that, quote, "None of the alleged victims they have identified have any connections to our church or any of its ministries." Then, on October 7th, there was a new development that emerged. The church announced, quote, "There was a new allegation against Jon from an adult connected to our church. We are fully cooperating with Detective Alvarez."
Oh wow! So it went down. It went downhill and caught other people he had done it to. Ooh.
In the Montgomery County Constable's Office for Precinct 3, who is investigating the case, and have turned over what we know to her. And the pastor reiterated that no children associated with the church or the school have come forward and identified themselves as victims in this case. Now, if you're a fan of Sidebar, if you're a fan of what we do here at Law and Crime, you might be wondering, how do we get so many clips out to our followers? Well, I'll give you a little secret. If you're interested in the content creation game, we use a all-in-one AI editor that makes it easier and faster to cut, create, and upload videos across all social media platforms. Through the power of AI, Opus Clip, it automatically generates B-roll, it cleans up audio, and it reframes your videos for any platform. It is so easy to start using. I'm going to show you how right now. All you got to do is go to opus.pro/sidebar. You sign up, you upload a video, and in just a few minutes, you will have tons of perfectly edited clips ready to go. So whether you're making videos for TikTok or Shorts or Instagram Reels, Opus Clip is your one-stop shop for getting your best content seen by more viewers.
Always,
as
brother.
always. Yeah, thank you.
Always.
So, from your experience leading human trafficking and child exploitation investigations, this suspect, what stands out to you about it?
He targeted the prey. This predator started out with a theft, and that is he went into her storage, went into the cloud, and pulled a picture for the sole purpose to groom and sextort it. That's how this whole thing started. She didn't present. He found her and then sextorted her. That's what stands out.
And talk to me about the rise of digital tools. On one hand, it provides more opportunities for predators or alleged predators to abuse, to commit crimes. But on the other hand, it provides more evidence for investigators and law enforcement.
It is. And it also adds layers and layers of complication, because when we get data, it used to be back, we can download a phone or a digital device in a couple hours. Now you've got, terabytes of information that we need to download, but also the technology and the amount of digital tools that are out there. That's how a predator like this can use to tap into someone's own account and pull pictures. So it absolutely is an incredible tool, but can also be used, like in this case, a weapon.
One of the things that I don't think can be overstated is how difficult it is for alleged victims to come forward in these kind of cases. And when you think about what happened here, if all these allegations are true, to come forward, particularly against a person of authority like this, somebody who's well respected, maybe even loved and adored in the community. Talk to us about how difficult that is and how that might complicate an investigation from your perspective.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You can love a person and find out that they creepy, and it happens all the time. Our neighbor, we didn't know he was creepy. We didn't know he did that. We didn't know. Happens all the time.
Well, I think it's important for your viewers to know that this is why we get inside the mind of the predator, because predators use their positions many times as a gateway to their prey, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's teaching, whether it's coaching, and in this case, the ministry. And I can tell you that a lot of victims don't come forward for one of two reasons. Number one, they don't think people are going to believe them. Or number two, they're embarrassed thinking they did something. And that's what this predator used against the victim. If you saw in the story, in the affidavit, that he sent other videos and pictures to kind of try to rationalize, but also threaten. If you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. And that's where the complication comes, because this went on for years. Imagine the emotional distress this poor victim went through, thinking that she did something wrong when he was using it as a grooming tactic.
Is it tough investigating a case when you're dealing with allegations from years prior?
It makes it more difficult because you have victims that have now matured. We just had a case a year and a half ago where our victims at the time they went into adult education to be tested were 16, 17 years old. And the administrator of that adult education was using his position of authority to have sex with them in order to get them their GED. Well, by the time...
Oh, that's wild. That's wild. You blackmailing people to get their GED by having sex with? Y'all can be diabolical.
And we found out there has been a number of schools that paid off the families in a civil case. By the time I got my teeth into the criminal case, these victims are 28, 29 years old. So they have a whole new life. Right. I could not get victims to come forward. And I had one come forward, but during the exam, he didn't show up and the case was dismissed. The longer it goes, the absolute more difficult it is.
Whoa. He said he? As in men were forcing young boys to have sex with them? Wow.
This affidavit, which I want to get into, paints a disturbing, highly detailed picture of what detectives say they uncovered. This includes text messages, digital evidence, a timeline that tracks this alleged abuse nearly a decade. So I want to go through it with you, Chris, and talk about what's new. Okay, so according to this affidavit that was filed by Detective Samantha Alvarez, who we mentioned before, with the Montgomery County Constable's Office, Precinct 3, investigators allege the conduct dates all the way back to May 1st, 2018. The document reads, on or about May 1st, 2018, Jon Paul Sheptock, the defendant, did then and there intentionally or knowingly promote visual material, to wit, a digital file of a photo that contains multiple pictures of females, and one of the photos is of a 17-year-old female minor that shows her nude body and bare breast, including below the top of a specific section of the breast, that visually depicted, and which the defendant knew visually depicted, a child who was younger than 18 years of age at the time the image of the child was made. And look, while we already knew that Sheptock was facing a second-degree felony charge for promotion of child pornography, it's the newly filed warrant that lays out for the first time how detectives say he got that image in the first place, because the victim told investigators that she believes Sheptock actually stole the photo from her iCloud account, using his access to her family's digital files. According to the affidavit, she told Detective Alvarez that Sheptock had long managed their taxes and had access to personal passwords, email accounts.
So he was just a creep. He was a creep-ola to the highest order. Took advantage. And I get it. People take advantage of and they go too far. But they already had this predilection in them. They already had this in them to do these things to people. This is wild.
Social media credentials, allowing him to get into her private photo gallery. And after apparently stealing the photo, allegedly stealing the photo, detectives say Sheptock used it to coerce her into sending more. The affidavit states, after the defendant sent the image of the victim, he told her that he wanted more explicit images of her. The defendant then sent her a video depicting someone being physically assaulted, accompanied by a statement implying that he did not want that to happen to her. She told investigators that she was terrified to tell anyone what was happening, especially her parents. The affidavit quotes, due to her parents' strong religious beliefs, the victim was concerned about how her parents would react to the fact that she had taken a nude photo of herself. Chris, there's a lot to break down here first. Yeah, coming forward with your parents, your family, particularly if there's these kind of dynamics or these religious dynamics. You talked about it before. This is why some abuse or alleged abuse can stay under the radar, can never be brought up.
And I think it's important to also add this word premeditation. This predator was premeditated, built a relationship with the family, had inside information, locked eyes on this prey, the victim, and then used his technology, his experience, his knowledge to go in and pull an image, knowing that when he got the image, if he'd have just kept it and did nothing, she'd have never known. But he sent it to her as a bait. And that bait was not, I'm going to get you rich. We're going to be famous. I'm going to become your agent. He said, if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. That's what sextortion is. And predators define their own rules. Now you have a young victim who's grown up in the faith-based community, saved by grace, feels like now she's shamed about doing something, and that's what he targets, and that's what he uses as his extortion. It's very, very common in the church setting because of the people that are there. As a churchgoer myself, I know the mentality, and I know she felt that way because he made her feel that way.
And it's incredibly difficult, again, to come forward. Just going back to something, I mean, we all have a digital footprint. We're all putting everything on, not necessarily online, but, your digital passwords, your files, your email. You always wonder who has access to it. You always wonder who you're giving access to it. Not to sound the alarm bells, but, I mean, is this something that's common that you see? You're entrusting somebody with this information?
Most people are not going to break your trust. But this creepy minister went way beyond what he was supposed to do. And he hurt the family when he could have just did it. He didn't need to do it. That's all. He was just a creep. It is what it is. And we have creepy human beings on this planet. And he just happened to be a minister who's a creepy human being.
and they use it to commit a crime. I mean, that's the allegation. They use it to exploit somebody. Are you seeing this?
Yeah, two ways to answer that. Number one, don't ever take a photo or a video of something that you don't want on the front page of any publication. Rule number one, whatever you text, whatever you say, whatever you photo, whatever you vid, just remember this. It's out there. Even if it's only on your storage device, even if it's only for your eyes only or your loved one, nothing is secure on a phone, no matter how we slice it, because people can get your passwords, they can crack the code. You could send it to somebody who's a friend today, phone tomorrow. But the second thing that I think is important is think of all the technology that we used to use, but we never closed those accounts. I mean, when we do credit reports, we find credit cards that we've taken out or credit cards that we forgot we even had. Same thing with email addresses or old accounts on social media. You got a new Instagram account or a new TikTok account, but you have this other one when you're 18 and you posted on there, but you don't even remember the password. All those things complicate. And there are experts that are out there in the world of evil that look for those exact opportunities to pull from those accounts and use it against you.
Can you tell us what the impact of this is for somebody, the impact of abuse like this, particularly if you're talking about somebody so young as they mature into adulthood?
Yeah, how many women did he do it to? How many human beings did he do this to? So he did it so smooth with this woman that he had to have done it to somebody else before, previously. Previously, he did this before. So he's good at it. He's a predator.
I wonder if you've stayed in touch with these people who have gone through this. I mean, what is that like?
So ironic that you asked that, because just 2 weeks ago, we concluded a case where the victim was 12 years old and she was groomed by a 35-year-old male who was 2 counties away.
Ooh.
And he broke into her friend circle and talked as though he was a 12 or 13-year-old friend, and then convinced her to go to a sidebar chat where he built a relationship. So much so that he picked her up from middle school and had multiple sexual account episodes. And when he was found outside her bedroom window by the mother, that's how the case broke. Fast forward, we arrested him, we charged him. He got 15 years in prison. But let me tell you, the victim, who's now a survivor, asked me to read her victim impact statement to the circuit court judge at his sentencing. That's the first time in my 33 years I've ever been asked to do that. Here's why. Because she couldn't say it, she could write it, and she believed and trusted in me and Ghost.
Oh, that's so fucking foul. That's so foul. I don't even know what to say. 35 to a little kid. Oof. Oof.
These individuals, these survivors, they need somebody to stand by them. This is not easy. We look at it many times from our perspective. We're, 30, 40, 50 years old. We've been in the business. This is what we do, Jesse. But those people that are impacted, this is what they go to bed with and what they wake up with. The emotional heaviness, thinking that what's going to happen? How are people going to view me? These are things that we and our viewers need to be very sensitive to, and that this isn't just a crime of a larceny. This isn't just a stolen car. These are people's lives. We need to restore them. We need to give them their dignity back. We need to give them their respect and ultimately just embrace them. And the fact that it's wrapped around a church blanket is even more difficult.
It's a great point, and it just highlights, again, the incredible work that you do for the community. And like you said, the trust that you've been building up. I think that's so important, particularly in these kinds of cases. So I appreciate you sharing that story. I want to talk a little bit more about this digital trail. So this digital trail that investigators say they have been able to piece together, and it says a lot. So the affidavit shows that investigators ultimately found a detailed record of communications between Sheptock and the victim here, including messages where he appears to pressure her to respond. And as for how they obtained these messages, the affidavit shows that after the victim came forward in August, investigators obtained her full consent to forensically extract her phone. And according to the warrant, detectives located these text messages and Snapchat communications between the victim and Sheptock's verified phone number, as well as a private account that he allegedly operated under the name Zane Tech. From there, investigators found an escalating series of messages spanning from November 2023 through September of 2024. The affidavit reads, November 27th, 2023, 9:53 p.m. The defendant. So a few things. I know you're ignoring me on the other app, so reply there so I know you got this message. And now that you read it, you can delete here. No reply from the victim. Then 2 weeks later, December 11th, 2023, the defendant apparently sent a meme that stated, tick tock, tick tock. And then again, no reply from the victim. And detectives say that this pattern continued for months, repeated attempts to make contact, often with these kind of subtle alleged threats or reminders that he was watching her. You go to February 2024, the tone had shifted. The affidavit details, quote, the defendant sent a photo of what appeared to be a screenshot from Snapchat of people who viewed his story, which included the victim, followed by proof of ignoring, how rude, followed with an upside down smile. The defendant followed the above message with a memo of, you have 24 hours. There was no reply from the victim. A few weeks later, another alleged warning, February 26, 2024 at 4:09 p.m. The defendant, it means everything you asked me to grab off the web is now back on it. I won't be taking it down anymore unless I am talked to. Now, Chris, in and of itself, it's going to be very difficult for defense attorneys to argue this didn't come from his devices, let alone saying that he didn't send it. I mean, I've seen those defenses before. But this digital trail tells so much of the story, and I'm curious from your perspective what those messages say.
He prepared for this. He knew at some point he would be caught because he's a predator. So he already knew what he was doing, when he was doing it, and how he was doing it. He just was banking on her not saying anything because he had done this before.
Say to you.
Well, it's also important, I think, if we go back, that in order to have a digital trail, you have to have an investigator who has the heart and the mind to want to learn how to follow a digital trail, to go to months and months of intense training out of state, usually from where their agencies are, to get the top line equipment that is so technical that when you forensically download a phone, what you're doing is you're just making a digital copy, because the original evidence has to be there so it doesn't impact the timestamp when every input is made. So they make the digital copy, then they got to go through. And as I said before, Jesse, we're talking hours and hours and hours of searching with keyword searches and photo searches and video searches. Then you got to validate each one of those messages through timestamp, because everything that we say when we log on to a phone, when we check a picture out, when we send something, when we receive something, all those are time and date stamped. So investors have to validate that that is actually from that location, from that phone, from that person. Fast forward. The reason why digital footprinting is so important and to have the right people is because it tells a story that nobody can argue. The only holes the defense can poke is, was this phone evidence tampered with by not making a real digital copy? Where's the original evidence? That's all they're going to try to do, because the evidence on the phone speaks for itself. The messages from this predator, the fact that he's trying to get into her head, he's saying messages that are not only passive aggressive, but they're aggressive. And she didn't respond. God bless her, because she didn't want to be drawn into this trap. But think of the emotional stress that she is going through by looking at that message. And then she's got to go live normal life, or try to be a daughter to a parent, or go to church and sing in the choir that who knows if this guy was her choir director. These are all those things that digital evidence, it starts to connect the dots. So she's saying what's happening, but it's backed up by digital evidence. And that evidence never goes away. It's like a house being built, and you think by removing the mailbox, the house doesn't exist.
Yeah, see, I get it. I get it to a certain extent. I get
it. And really, I'm glad you elaborate.
And I'm not trying to victim blame here. No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I'm thinking to myself, this motherfucker really, really did not expect them to say nothing. And my question is, why did it take so long, 10 years, to say anything?
On what efforts and resources go into try to extracting this, because this is key evidence, and this is the kind of strong evidence that you see in a case where it's presented by prosecutors, and that's what may lead to a plea deal, because there's not, do you want to take this to trial? Now, just taking a step back, though, it's by the spring of 2024 that these messages seemingly shifted back to something a little bit more innocuous. There were discussions about her taxes and family events. But the affidavit shows that by October 11th, 2024, the conversation once again turned explicit. Investigators claim that Sheptock sent a photo collage to be more accurate, showing 6 young girls side by side with nude images.
I mean, it's kind of creepy, even when you think about it. Dude don't have no arms. Already off the bat, we got some creepy shit going on, right? We don't have no arms. What the hell is going on that you would think to do this? And you're already at a disadvantage or as a disabled person, knowing full well you can't back up any of the threats that you said except in a verbal capacity. This is wild.
Images of them, including the victim herself. And the affidavit reads, October 11, 2024 at 2:31 p.m., the defendant sent a photo depicting 6 young girls with a side-by-side of another photo of them exposing their genitals. The photos also include the names of the girls, with one photo identified as the victim accompanied by her name, alongside another photo showing her face side by side. Chris, talk to me about not only what you're taking away from this, but also, I have to ask, how are these images, this data, properly collected and preserved so that they can never get out?
Well, to your first point, when predators are caught, rarely is it the first time they've ever acted out. It's just the first time they've been caught. And in this case, I have no doubts that this suspect, this predator, has done this for a long time. It's not his first opportunity. But that image itself, you're not going to get 6 girls, and I haven't seen the photo, but you're not going to get 6 girls to line up and take the photo. So he used technology to stream it all together, to lace it all together, and then send it for a specific purpose. And that specific purpose is to create a breakdown of that victim, to once again send more nudes, send more photos, send more videos, or worse yet, meet him for the physical act. That's what we see in Ghost. Is it starts out online, it starts with some chatter, it starts with some banter, it goes highs and lows. You saw that just in your last minute there when you said that it kind of went back innocuous, talking about things. He's testing the waters to see if, all right, is she still there? Is she not? Did she break away? Did she not? And then went right back to this aggressive social media content. Well, that photo, however he made it, once we track where that photo is, we can track how it got there, from what source it was sent to, who in what kind of software he has to do these kinds of photoshopping. All that digital evidence is what investigators are finding out. And then you couple that with the confession, because that's really where the case comes closed, is where you sit that suspect down, you have all the digital evidence, and you go to me and you say, John, we're going to go from start to finish. And I'm telling you right now, you better tell the truth, because this digital evidence does not lie. And then you couple that with a confession, and the case is closed. He's taking a plea and going to prison.
Chris, I want to talk to you about just a couple more things before I let you go that we've learned over the course of this investigation. So according to The Independent, Sheptock, who was born without arms, was this well-known Christian music artist and worship leader at First Montgomery Baptist Church. He'd previously performed at political events, including singing the national anthem at a Donald Trump rally in January of 2022. He later posted for photos with the former president and his son on social media. His final public post that was made on September 19th reads, "When you bring the word of God, truth into the world, expect pushback." Why? Because men hate light and love darkness. The root of all evil isn't found in politics, denominations, race, or culture. It lies in the human heart. But that post only kind of scratches the surface of who Sheptock presented himself to be, because according to the Houston Chronicle, Sheptock had been active in the worship music industry for years. An archived version of his now deleted website says that he was born in New Jersey in 1976 with no arms and a shorter right leg before later relocating to Montgomery, Texas. The Chronicle also unearthed earlier interviews showing how Sheptock's disability shaped his public image. In a 2009 profile, he said his Christian faith helped him overcome feelings of isolation, even led him to his wife. He told the outlet, "I started talking to this girl on a Christian chat room site on the internet. That's how I found my wife, Stacy. I lied to her for about a month. Then I told her everything. I have no arms and one short leg. I live with my parents, had no clue what I wanted to do in life. She didn't talk to me for a week. Then she came back and said, I don't care what handicap you have. I just think you're really sweet, and I want to continue talking." Now, Chris, that's the part about this that, particularly if you didn't have the digital evidence, if it was just a he said, she said, it might be difficult to get.
And then this motherfucker turned out to be a goddamn creep. With all the disadvantages that you walk into a relationship with, you turn out to be a predator. you turn out to be a predator. That's wild.
A jury. It might be even difficult to convince a jury that he did this. And yes, these are allegations at this point. He's innocent until proven guilty. But from your experience, where you see alleged predators or convicted predators in all forms of life, does it ever shock you what you're seeing, who the suspect is, what the height that they've reached to, and yet they're accused of this?
It does not shock me. And in this particular case, you read a pretty distinct background, but none of that excuses predatory behavior. And none of that brings the innocence of this victim back. And I appreciate there's always the other side. We're sensitive to that. When we do a ghost operation like last night, arrested 3 individuals. These individuals that came to our operation to have sex with a minor, have families, have kids, have a circle, and they're impacted. That's why shows like yours are so vital to get this message out, that if somebody has these inclinations, to get the help before you get caught and destroy and blow up your whole family and others along the way. So we're
But it's shame is the problem. People are ashamed that they have these feelings, that they have feelings for a young, growing individual who's not an adult. So it's very hard for them to come forward, and I get it. It just is.
We're not insensitive to people who have tendencies that are like what you just mentioned. And people have very difficult backgrounds, but none of that excuses the behavior that we're on this show for and the victim who needs to be a survivor. The level of people that we find, I mean, I go back when you're reading this, Jared from Subway, remember when he was the face of Subway and he's in prison now? You look at Bill Cosby, you look at these individuals that have done these things for years, but they've created a persona. Many times it's to camouflage what they are deep down in their core. What I think was interesting is when I read the statement of the church to the members, because I have in many times experienced that churches want to use church discipline on a criminal issue. That can never happen.
Right.
Yes, there is a member who embarrassed and broke biblical law. Should it be a Christian faith? But the crimes in the church are so important. And the fact that church leadership said, we're going to fully cooperate with law enforcement. We do not one bit excuse this kind of behavior. And if there's anybody else that needs to come forward, I thought that letter was well written. I've not seen that in every church investigation, but the church in Montgomery, Texas, they did it right.
And now, Sheptock, he faces a second-degree felony charge of promotion of child pornography that carries a potential punishment, our understanding, is of 2 to 20 years in prison.
That's wild. That's wild. All of these disadvantages, all of these advantages. Church, ministry. Why is it that we keep saying a bunch of religious people go nutso when it comes to sex? Or taking folks out with a gun? Or just what happens? Is there something that's related to religion? I don't know. I just don't understand it. Every time you turn around, somebody's related to religion and they crash out.
He remains in jail awaiting his transfer to Montgomery County to face the charges, and detectives are urging anyone with concerns or information regarding Sheptock to reach out to the number on the screen you see there and request to speak with a detective. Chris Swanson, thank you so much for coming on, taking the time to break all this down. And
that's wild. He's in jail, got a whole wife, a whole relationship, married, the whole nine, and he does this to his wife. I know she thinking, what the hell? How did I get involved with you? And you do this to me. Ooh, let's hope he gets everything he deserves and then some. Let's go on to this next case. This next case of a teen who does this to another teen. Let's see what they're talking about. Let's see what's going on.
Absolutely upset.
there is outrage in Oklahoma right now as a teenage rapist who could have gotten almost 80 years in prison for violent attacks, instead, doesn't have to spend any time behind bars at all. He is being called the new Brock Turner, as you have parents, community members, at least one lawmaker, they are crying foul over this sweetheart deal. We are going to be sitting down with a content creator and reporter who has been covering every aspect of this case to try to figure out what happened here. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. A high school baseball player out in Stillwater, Oklahoma, just accepted a deal that means he won't spend any time in prison after pleading no contest to some of the most heinous charges there are. Charges like rape, forced oral sodomy, assault and battery by strangulation. According to graphic arrest affidavits that were filed in Payne County, Oklahoma court, then 17-year-old Jesse Mack Butler targeted at least 2 teen girls that he dated. And many of these accusations, they are right out of a horror movie, okay? So now, before we dig into this, before we dig deeper into these affidavits, I got to tell you a little bit more about Butler, who turned 18 in August. So he attended Stillwater Public Schools, played for the high school baseball teams and other regional outfits. This is according to reporting from the Daily Mail. Stillwater is the home of Oklahoma State University, and Butler, by the way, comes from an influential sports family. The Daily Mail reports that his father, Mack Butler, was the OSU football team's director of operations from 2001 to 2004, and then again in 2009 until 2021. He was then hired as the assistant athletics director for Stillwater Public Schools. Butler's mother, Jackie Butler, is a coordinator for Cowboy sports properties at OSU. This is again according to the Daily Mail. Family members of Butler's victims described him as seemingly like, quote, the perfect boyfriend when he dated their 16-year-old daughters. But these affidavits, they reveal that behind closed doors, Butler was essentially a violent predator who refused to be told no. I'm going to take a look at this paperwork, okay? Now, we're not going to be getting into some of the more graphic parts of the affidavits, but this will give you an idea of the grave seriousness of this case. Now, according to the first affidavit, a 16-year-old identified by her initials LS told a school resource officer in September of 2024 that she had dated Jesse Butler for a few months earlier in the year, and that during that time, he physically and sexually assaulted her multiple times, including trying to rape her inside his car outside of an ice cream shop the previous February.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Was this kid obsessed with this girl? Or he was just forcing her to be humiliated? What the hell was going on? And you're 17 and they let you walk? He's a violent offender.
Affidavit reads, LS reported she yelled and told him no repeatedly and tried to push him off of her, but was unable to overpower him. LS reported Butler told her he was sorry for what he had to do, but he had to do it. LS recalled hyperventilating because Butler intended to have sexual intercourse with her and she did not want to. Now, according to LS, a woman must have heard her screaming because she walked up to the car and interrupted them. LS told police that Butler told her that if the police came, they would both be in trouble. He reportedly took her back to his home where her car was parked and then tried to rape her again. The affidavit says LS told Butler she needed to get home, but Butler pulled her on top of him and told her, "You're not going until I'm finished." LS said she was eventually able to get out of the car and get home. Now, the victim told police that Butler forced her to perform oral sex on him in the parking lot of a Planet Fitness despite her saying no. And unbelievably, during the assault, the affidavit says that Butler took a call from his mom, told LS she had to be silent or he would hurt her. There's another assault that happened at Butler's home in what's referred to as a movie room. According to LS, she believes Butler's mom heard her crying and saying no as Butler tried to have sex with her. And she apparently came to the door asking if everything was okay. But it seems that's as far as this mom's interaction went, because the affidavit just says that Butler drove LS home at that point. Except he didn't take her all the way home. No, he apparently parked nearby, tried to sexually assault her for nearly 2 hours. The affidavit says that when she finally managed to get to her house, he followed her and continued trying to assault her inside of the home. And the abuse just kept getting worse because, according to LS, in late February of 2024, Butler reportedly strangled her because she refused to have sex with him. So the affidavit says, quote, LS reported she was hyperventilating and then recalled her vision being blurry and she was dizzy. She reported her head immediately hurt and she was confused about what occurred. She was scared of Butler, but when she regained consciousness, Butler was laughing at her. Following this incident, LS reported she had a handprint and injury on her neck. Now, LS was examined by a sexual assault specialist, confirmed the teen had been a victim of sexual and physical abuse. This is according to the affidavit. I gotta say, by the way, this is a prime example of what we try to do here on Sidebar. We're trying to understand the legal system. We're trying to understand the law. And I have to say, I am so happy that this show is sponsored by legal experts, Morgan & Morgan, right? This is America's...
This is a wild story. Many, many instances in which opportunities were lost. But you always have to wonder, if you knew it was wrong, what happened? What were the threats like that made you not want to tell? What did the person say to you that scared you so much? And it can happen in an instant, and I get it. No, I've been in a situation too, but not actually threatened. I just felt unable to say
Butler
no.
and LS, they apparently broke up in March of 2024. He started dating KS, and his disturbing and aggressive behavior, that allegedly continued. You have a second affidavit that details assaults that KS says she suffered during this relationship. Quote, KS reported she engaged in sexual intercourse with Jesse Butler throughout the term of their relationship and did so to prevent physical aggression from him. When KS told Butler he was hurting her, he did not care and would not stop. Because of his aggressiveness, she was scared to tell him to stop. She expressed she was scared not to do what he wanted because of how physically violent he had been with her. KS reported Butler had left bruises on her hips from squeezing her so tightly. KS reported the intercourse was extremely aggressive, but she reported she quickly stopped fighting it because Butler would overpower her and hurt her to get his way. KS explained she learned what to do and not to do to avoid being hurt by Butler. According to KS, Butler would pin her down and she was physically unable to get him off of her. KS stated this would often lead her to hyperventilate, which Butler thought was funny. So not only is it horrific, but you're seeing how these accounts are very similar to one another. Now, according to this affidavit,
which meant this is what he likes, which means he's going to continue to do it, which means he's going to end up in prison. Sooner or later, he's going to end up in prison, because I am sure that every family member believes these girls. Even his family member believes these girls. They know you have an animal on your son is an animal.
Butler also strangled KS, and so bad, so long, that she eventually passed out. She reported she woke up on the floor of the living room in a house where she was apparently house sitting, and she claims Butler was livid that she wouldn't have sex with him in someone else's home. But after strangling her, KS claims Butler raped her 3 or 4 times. Later that same week, KS reported that Butler strangled her again. And if it's possible to even believe this, it was an even sicker power play. The affidavit says KS stated Butler told her he wanted to strangle her so he could film it on his phone. And if you can believe it, police found that video on Butler's phone, which showed him choking KS until she passed out. What these girls went through, what they endured, is just unimaginable. But then you get to the consequences, and that too is seemingly unimaginable. Why? So Jesse Butler was charged in March of 2025 as an adult with 10 felony counts. We are talking rape, we are talking attempted rape, sexual battery, assault. He was later hit with an 11th charge when he apparently violated a protective order.
What would make it okay for him to get off on these kind of charges? You got a videotape of him strangling her. You got a videotape of all the activities that he did, the one particular activity that he did with KS.
He was facing almost 80 years in prison for these crimes. He ended up entering into a no contest plea, okay?
How does that happen? Oh, I'm sorry. The same way it happened with the dude who stabbed a girl on the train. Same way, same kind of judge. Has nothing to do with color. Let's be clear. If this can happen here, it definitely can happen other places, and it has.
This is where everything changes. This is where the big shock comes when he entered that plea in August. His case had apparently been downgraded from adult court to youthful offender status. And because of that, he would spend no time behind bars. So instead of his 78-year prison sentence, that was deferred. It's deferred as long as he complies with his, quote, rehabilitation plan. According to News Nation, until his 19th birthday, Butler has to do these daily check-ins, these weekly counseling sessions. He has a curfew. He isn't allowed to be on social media. He has to complete 150 hours of community service, and if he does that, no prison time. The district attorney's office released this statement per the Daily Mail. The youthful offender sentence imposed against Jesse Butler requires him to complete his rehabilitation plan successfully, including an aggressive schedule of therapy with a specialist in sex offender treatment.
You see how this nigga got grace? You see how they gave him grace? More grace than he ever deserved. They gave him grace.
And should he fail, he faces reclassification as an adult and a sentence of 10 years in prison. So this complete 180 on punishment for this apparent sexual predator, as you can imagine, has caused quite the outrage in the city of Stillwater, and now across the world as the story spreads. There are calls for the judge who approved this plea deal, Special Judge Susan Worthington, to be reprimanded, to be removed for okaying this. And even the state's legislature could possibly be getting involved here. Oklahoma State Representative.
Of course, there should be some issue with her judgment. Of course, there should be some issue with her judgment. She just let a violent offender who is on tape, videotape, doing some of this violence, she let this person take a plea deal, and a very light plea deal. Of course, you should look at her record.
Representative Justin J.J. Humphrey appeared on Ashley Banfield's show on News Nation this week, and he is fired up.
But I keep coming back to how it happened. Sir, do you think that the courts are corrupt? Is that how you think that this deal was maneuvered?
Oh, absolutely. We're working on grand juries right there. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think we're going to see more cases like this. I think we're going to see.
Is the judge able to be bought? Is the judge able to be blackmailed? Is the judge related to this boy? Those are all the things that you need to investigate. Start with that. Because this is a sweetheart deal of a red-handed caught bandit. A bandit that's caught red-handed, and he gets no time, no jail time?
I'm working on a case that may be as shocking as this. We're trying to get the Payne County grand jury because of this kind of action. And so, yes, I mean, absolutely, there's a lot of problems. We're meeting with, great resistance from their court and from our Oklahoma government. I mean, we're meeting with great resistance on trying to get that grand jury and hold these people accountable. So again, until they're held accountable, the laws are there, but what do you do when they don't follow their own rules, when they don't follow justice? They took an oath to justice. Does this sound like justice? And again, here's what I'm saying. Shouldn't we investigate? Should we not investigate? Was there political favor done here? Was this done as a result because of position?
You definitely need to see if there's any kind of political favor. You definitely need to see about that.
The father has, or because people knew each other. I would think that it would warrant investigation. And again, it's all allegations. We don't know what happened until we go in and investigate it. But golly, I'm mad as all get out. And we're trying to have other things there in that same county investigated. I mean, very, very corrupt things going on in this county and really across the state. There's all kinds of things.
Now this gonna drag a whole bunch of people in on it. This young man committed these heinous crimes against these girls, and he got off. A sweetheart deal. He's out. Able to perform serious acts against other people. Maybe he's not going to do it and get caught. That's the question. You think a person that does what he does is going to stop? You think we know so many criminals that were under the watchful eye of the police and still committed felonies? That's the whole part. He's a predator. He's an offender. He's a violent offender. And ain't no way that he gonna stop. We just have to watch out for him to be in the news yet again. And this is our report for crime, daily crime. This is wild. This is wild, this story right here.